Thank you. We're so grateful that you've all taken the opportunity to join us for a 6-day journey on all things integrated marketing. The theme of this year's show is Are You Connected? Connected to the global community of marketers, your customers, and the ever-changing, elusive consumer. Over the course of this ride, you'll experience leading-edge best practices on connecting within this ever-evolving digital marketplace. To kick things off this morning, we've invited one of our DMA friends, Jaffe. Joe will address you this morning on re-engaging and connecting with those marketing-weary consumers through the power of conversation, community, and partnership. It's my pleasure to introduce one of the most sought-after marketing consultants, speakers, and thought leaders on new marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Jaffe.
Hello, everybody. Vegas, baby. Vegas. We're in Vegas. Everything's bigger in Vegas. No recession in Vegas. Everything's so great. I got a green room. Never had a green room before. I get my own walk-on music. I wanted Fat On Girls from Queen, no reason. Just like the song. I got a teleprompter, but it's not working very well, so it started freezing up on me, so I might have to ad-lib a little bit. What's the difference between a pit bull? Just kidding. I mean, you guys have been sitting on your bottoms, your good-looking bottoms, for about an hour now. You've been eating, you've been drinking, you're feeling quite comfortable, you've been listening to jazz, you're feeling quite complacent. I'm here to shock you out of your complacency. That's my job, to provoke, to inspire, to motivate, to make you think maybe about something that you weren't thinking about, to challenge you. For those of you at the back, I'm not Ty Pennington, he's tomorrow. Sorry if you're disappointed. For those of you that don't know who I am, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm a blogger. I have a blog called Jaffe Juice, for those of you that don't know. What else? I'm a Twitterer, which I guess makes me a twit. This was my 1000th tweet. You have to basically communicate in 140 characters or less. It says, this is my 1000th tweet, and I thought I'd use it to say something profound, pithy, and worthwhile to the incredible Twitterati community that tough communicating in 140 characters or less. Anybody involved in search marketing, it's tough being creative and breaking through the clutter today in this media deficit disorder world. What else? Facebook. I'm proud to say, over 2,100 fake friends on Facebook. I'm your typical marketer, right? I'm so damn insecure and neurotic that I measure my self-worth based on quantity, not on quality. So I invite you all, when you get back to your hotel rooms, please become my fake friend. I also have no problem with photographs, so take them, keep taking them of me. Make sure that you send them to my Facebook group. Okay, what else? I'm accessible. I think it's important to be accessible. You should know how to contact me. Like a brand, like a company, it should be easy to connect with me, to connect the dots with me. So my email address, for those of you that want to get in touch with me afterwards. My telephone numbers, work and cell phone. My blog URL on Facebook, you can be my friend, my fake friend. You can also join the Jaffe Juice group. My podcast number, if you want to send me a question, maybe tonight you guys have had a little bit too much to drink. I encourage you to drunk dial me. I love slide number 7. You know. Go for it, ask me a question. I'll answer it on next week's podcast. On Twitter, I'm Jaffe Juice. On Ugu, I'm Jaffe Juice. On Skype, I'm Jaffe Juice. In Second Life, I'm Devo Dappo. My social security number's over there. My bank account details with Bank of America. One of the few that's still in business. And my credit card details with American Express. And I give this to you freely and openly because I know for the most part you're too damn lazy to actually use the data to better connect with me. Actually, joke's on me, because I'm talking to the direct marketing industry. Right now, my identity's been stolen. You guys are booking vacations in the Bahamas. It doesn't work with brand marketers because they don't know how to use the data. But hopefully with you guys, it's very different. It's why I formed a company called Crayon, a strategic consultancy trying to help clients join the conversation. And I'll talk about this idea, this many-to-many opportunity that we have. How to ultimately effect positive impact and change. How to live with change. how to embrace change, how to really feed on change. This whole presentation is about change, and we need to change ourselves. Otherwise, we will be forever changed, and it won't be the good kind of change. It's what I call the many-to-many model. And you know what? I've been privileged enough to be invited to speak to the DMA, not only in the US, but around the world several times. And I always talk to the direct marketing industry, and I say, welcome to the and economy. This is not about all branding, direct response, left brand versus right brand. Accountability is not an optional extra, it's a mandatory, but that doesn't mean we have to sacrifice the ability to connect and engage on an emotional level as well. I talk about the and economy. No extremes anymore, just partnership and equilibrium. But today what I want to talk to you about is the many-to-many model. And let's figure out how direct marketing will embrace this many-to-many model. I think we all believe that the one-to-many is gone, or at least is changing. The command and control, the spray and pray, the shotgun approach, or as I often call it, the Dick Cheney approach. I can say that because Nevada's leaning slightly blue at the moment. I'll have to change it soon though. This was in many respects replaced by CRM, one-to-one, relationship marketing. I know many of you in the room understand and live in this world. It is the right world to live in. The ability to be one thing to one person, to customize a message. The problem is that marketers weren't ready for this message, sieged by too much data. And whether it was before its time or not is irrespective, because this was replaced by the one-from-one search. Probably the most pivotal moment in our professional lives, the day consumers could come to us, the day that consumers could find us, or miss us if we weren't findable. But I want to talk to you about the many-to-many model. Don't try and understand this particular model because I was on some kind of hallucinogenic drug at the time. It doesn't make sense, but it should make sense for you because your many-to-many model is completely different. Remember the sixth sense, I see dead people. Today we hear alive consumers, and the noise will drive us mad, insane, suffocate us if we don't know how to listen, how to respond, and how to join the conversation literally. We are surrounded by light, by passion, by millions of flawed, engaged, human, influential conversations. Isn't it time we joined in? Some people believe actually we've come full circle. We're going back to the one-to-many. Except notice that the colors have changed. Today, the targeted has become the targeter. And the targeter has become the targeted. And you know what I'm talking about. Our consumers are taking us on. We are in our consumers' crosshairs right now. They're bringing us down when we fail them. And that's a common theme that I'm sure I'll come back to later in this presentation. But I want us to focus on the many-to-many. And I want to ask you this question, and I had this in my presentation before I saw that the theme of this conference was, are you connecting? My question for you is, how are you connecting the dots? How are you recognizing that all these binary ones and zeros and data points and touch points are connected? That every single individual is connected to his or her family and friends and peers and churches and communities, the world, this global village that we live in. There are all of these connection points. And we've got to figure out how to work with our consumers as partners, how to become part of their community, how to dialogue with them on an ongoing basis to make a difference. Perhaps the biggest difference between how the world was and how it is exemplified in this image from the life of Brian. A book 10 years ago said, by the name of the Clue Train Manifesto, said, markets are conversations. The ancient market, the ancient bazaar of thousands of years ago, was teeming with life. People were using all five senses. They were smelling food, they were tasting food, they were listening to music, they were touching the merchandise, they were using all of their senses. There were sword swallowers and fire breathers, and there were snake charmers, and there were people that were negotiating. And they were shouting and screaming. They were passionate. They were excited to buy and sell stuff. But today, this is what the market looks like. This is the mall. This is your online storefront. It's dead. It's inanimate. It's sterile. It's cold. It's brittle. Where's the love? Where's the life? Where's the passion? Where's the excitement to buy and sell stuff? Commerce is damn sexy, but we need to inject the life back. So if markets are conversations, what about marketing? Well, my belief is that marketing can be a conversation. And just for the record, I'm not talking about having a conversation with a shoe. I'm not talking about, getting really intimate with a can of Coke. A lot of detractors say no. Marketing, brand marketing, direct marketing, not welcome. Uninvited guest. You can't play in consumers' homes. You can only break down their doors or get your foot in the door, but you can't come on in. I disagree, fundamentally. And I don't think consumers want to have conversations with shoes, but I do think consumers want to have their problems solved. And they want to be empowered and emboldened with information. They want to be educated. They want to be inspired. They want to engage or be engaged by or to engage at the same time. And anybody tells you that marketing cannot be a part of consumers' conversations is either lying or is just a damn fool. So, if you believe that marketing has a right and a role and can reclaim some kind of credible, authentic place and position in the hearts and minds of consumers, how do you do it? Well, you begin by wiping the word campaign from your lexicon. Get out of the campaign business and get into the commitment business. If you want to commit yourself to your consumers' lives, then at the end of the day, you're going to have to change the way you do business. If you want your consumers to trust you, are you going to trust them? Are you going to really give them a voice and listen to them and respond to them? How are you going to endure? How are you going to build lifetime valuable relationships with consumers that have the ability to endure? I'm going to give you some thoughts on that. The first thing to do is to get out of the fireworks business. I mean, think about the Super Bowl commercial. Think about what marketers do. They front load all of their budget into these giant productions. The sky lights up with brilliant colors and sound and synchronicity. Beautiful integration. Or maybe I should say duplication or imitation. Everything looks and feels the same. Maybe this is your flowchart, your media flowchart. My media flowchart is more colorful than yours, therefore I'm more integrated than you are. But my belief is that as long as your campaigns have an end date, they are not integrated, period. At the end of the day, we need to move from beyond this campaign siloed mentality, because a campaign is a silo. And instead of bursting and shocking our consumers into action through these brilliant displays where people look up and they're oohing and eyeing and hypnotized and mesmerized, but as quickly as the sky bursts into color, it returns to darkness. We go dark on our consumers. We go silent. Can you imagine going home, especially after Vegas, and saying to your husbands or wives, honey, I'm going dark on you. I'm going down to Florida where it's warmer, where there's beautiful Cuban food and or men and or women, and then we'll just come back and resume. We'll pick it up when we left off. We know how that campaign mentality might end, how that scenario might end. A few weeks ago, I spoke to the email marketing industry, and I said, I want to challenge you, because if you want to be truly in the commitment business, and if you want to get out of the fireworks mentality, then I want you to think about doing something completely revolutionary and different. I said every single email should have an active, human, and responsive reply to address. Every single time we communicate with a consumer via email, they should be able to communicate back, and if they do, we should respond to them. Well, you can imagine what that does in an industry where you're sending billions and billions of emails. So today, I'd like to kind of drop another bomb on your industry, if I may. I think every single piece of direct marketing should have a clear unsubscribe call to action. Above the fold, on the front page, if it's a piece of direct mail, the first thing people should be able to see, or at least on that first page, they should know how they can literally wipes that piece of direct mail from the face of the earth for an eternity. At least conceptually, if you think about it. Why wouldn't we take all of our physical, our tangible, our analog direct marketing and hold it to the same high standards that digital is holding us to today? Instead of trying to figure out what we need to do next on digital, maybe we can actually take a leaf or a page from digital's book and think about, wait a second, why wouldn't we do that? If we're not sending relevant, experiential, entertaining, engaging information, education, whatever the case may be to our consumers, why shouldn't they very clearly know how to say to us, stop? But I'll give you the flip side as well. Why not allow them to send that piece of direct mail to a friend if it's so great? Why not allow them to refer it to a friend? Why not create some kind of analog or physical or tangible viral type of marketing methodology that applies just as equally to something that appears in your mailbox compared to something that appears in your inbox? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the biggest risk we can take today is to perpetuate the status quo. The biggest risk we can take is to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a campaign that nobody notices. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to see it, does it make a sound? The answer is no. I wrote an article for Adweek a couple of weeks ago where I guess I piled on the pain, not intentionally, but to AIG. And I said, at the end of the day, you said something and you did something else. Stockard Channing, the president's wife from the West Wing, she told me everything was going to be fine. She filled me with hope, with dreams, with aspiration, with the ability to be confident, to be assured of a brighter future. And then we went and spent $500,000 on an executive off-site retreat and $25,000 on spa treatments. It's too risky right now to perpetuate the status quo. It's too risky to say one thing and do another thing. The only integration that has to happen right now is to make sure that what we say is what we do. And that kind of transparent relationship with our consumers, that kind of connection with our consumers is and might be capable of transforming our businesses permanently. Another way to think about it is, instead of to start with what we've always done before, why don't we end with that stuff? Why don't we start with the 93 colors? We've never ever had so many tools in our toolbox as we have today. We've never been able to paint with so much elaborate combinations and permutations, to plant so many new, nascent, emerging, non-traditional alternative seeds in the hearts and minds of our consumers. It's what I call the small idea. Now, small idea might be paying down your mortgage, but for the most part, that's a big idea to one simple, single Joe six-pack. At the end of the day, small ideas we can identify with, if we can count it on our 10 fingers, then it's real and tangible to us. We need to think about how to get away from this quantity, Facebook 2100 fake friends, this whole quantitative-based, scaled methodology or philosophy, and think about how we can, in fact, create these small connection points with our consumers that can grow over time. The seed today becomes the giant oak tree of tomorrow. I think now, if ever, I mean, we may see the world as volatile and uncertain, but it isn't. At the end of the day, we need to become these crazy storm chasers. We need to fly right into the heart of the storm, like the Weather Bureau does. It's the only way to understand how big, how impactful, the speed, the pace, the velocity, the intensity, the potential, the direction, the longevity. The only way we will discover it for ourselves is to do it ourselves, to experiment. Innovation needs to be a part of our corporate DNA. If we aren't capable of making mistakes and embracing our ability to make a mistake and learn from that mistake, then we may very well get left behind. Because the future starts now. There is no next big thing. The next big thing is now. It is search. It is this open access. It is the one-to-many, where consumers are the one and we are the many. This is a chart, and you don't need to understand the chart if you're sitting at the back, but you know, it appalled me 2 years ago to see this chart for the first time. Interactive marketers still dipping their toes in the water. And at the same time, mainstream marketers kind of moving away from the traditional, the email, the search, saying this stuff is old. What's the next big thing? What's the next new, shiny, glossy gimmick? At the end of the day, we've got too many of these incredible new approaches, and we need to invest in them, and we need to commit to them, because in doing so, we will commit to our consumers. In fact, a new day has dawned. And my belief is that brands will be redefined completely based on how they rely on, resonate with, and relate to their consumers and their communities, and to their communities. I mean, again, you know, 3 weeks ago, there were companies on the face of this earth, and today they are no more. You don't think it can change quickly? It can change quickly. It can change in days, in weeks, maybe even in hours. It is foolish and delusional to believe that what worked yesterday and today will work tomorrow. But this is not a message. You know, I'm not the harbinger of doom and gloom. I'm here to tell you that we have the most incredible opportunity, and direct marketing can and should lead the way, because fundamentally you understand the power of data. And I believe fully that within 5 to 7 years, some pimple-faced geek, bless him, with, you know, tape kind of protecting their glasses, will walk onto the center stage at Cannes and win the Grand Prix for Best Database of the Year. It's coming. The new 6. When people are shocked or like, really? I need to buy a new pair of glasses. But at the end of the day, that is what will ultimately define this new world. I think in 2012, we're going to see very different companies out there. We're going to see organizations with conversation departments. We're going to see employees talking to employees, customers talking to customers, promoters talking to detractors. We're going to see the barriers to access and the barriers to conversation being torn down. We're going to see chief conversation officers. We're going to see customer service, relationship marketing, CRM emerge as a front office hero, a key strategic competitive differentiator, because the way that we talk to our existing customers will define us in years to come. And at the end of the day, no more campaigns. Our consumers will tell us when to shut the hell up. I couldn't put it any more simply or eloquently. But in order to do that, we're going to need to recognize that this stuff is not easy. There's no overnight solution. The seeds of conversation are not magic beans. Those small things, those small ideas, we will plant today and nurture and commit and protect, and over time see the giant oak tree, or maybe even that beanstalk, grow over time. And there actually is a way to do that, by the way. This is a process that we put together at my company, Crayon, that you can have your own process as well. We call it the conversational contact process. And at the end of the day, it's a very simple 9-step program that shows you how to listen, how to respond, when to respond, and how to continue that dialogue over time. In a way, it is an and model, because it fuses advertising and media with PR and a bunch of other best practices as well. Let me give you an example of why this is so important. How many of you flew here on Delta? Good experience? Yeah? I got this right now, which might mean time or is it there or is it there? Now, not many people passionate about Delta right now. I'm not passionate about Delta. I had a bad experience with them, and I created this new idea called Delta Skelter. And some of my community created their own logos for me as well. Delta Skelter. And I changed my Facebook and my Twitter IDs to Delta Skelter. And other bloggers wrote about Delta Skelter. And I had Twitter conversations about Delta Skelter. And more concerning, if you go to Google and you type in Delta Platinum Business Class, the 5th entry or the 6th entry above the fold on page 1 is Delta Skelter. I even created a little YouTube viral ad, if you will. Not so viral, but let me just play you a little bit of my video, my ode to Delta Skelter. When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the track. Never stop, never tell, never go right. Till I get to the bottom, showing this to you? I'm not showing it to you because since this happened to me, I've spent over $100,000 on airline travel, not one penny with Delta. I'm not showing it to you because other people have done the same and have told me and emailed me about it. I'm not showing it to you because I haven't used my Delta Sky Miles card at all since this happened. What became playful and mischievous initially has now become something where honestly I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just apathetic. I don't care anymore. I'm showing it to you very simply because I've received no less than 5 solicitations in the mail from Delta for Delta Sky Miles credit cards. In fact, their new reserve credit card because I'm just so valuable to them. Do I seem valuable to them? Who is asleep at the wheel? At the end of the day, when consumers are mad or angry with us, they're begging us to solve their problems. They're begging us to join in their particular conversations. And we cannot allow this wastage to occur anymore. Wastage of our direct marketing dollars, wastage of our media dollars, and wastage of our time, our effort, our energy, our resources. These are opportunities, or should be opportunities. They should not end up the way this story ended up. Now, I gave you the science, but here's the art. I mean, the science is a process. Somebody says something, you know about it. How do you know about it? Because you're monitoring it. What do you respond? What do you say? Who says it? When do you respond? That's easy. The harder part is the art, the Triple H. Humanity, humility, and humor. How do we as corporations take ourselves a little less seriously? How can we be self-deprecating? How can we be irreverent? How can we actually embrace being laughed at? I mean, we want to be laughed with, but being laughed at is okay, as long as it's not too long-term or too malicious. How do we take ourselves a little less seriously? Sometimes I think of us as this beefeater in London. We stand there so rigid, and people come up to us and they flick our ears and they ruffle our head feathers, and they make little jokes. And sometimes you just wish he would put his gun down, definitely put his gun down, and just punch us in the face, or give us a big fat kiss on the lips, or do something. But that's us. We stand there. Are we paralyzed? Are we so afraid? Or does our corporate culture or our corporate rules and regulation just prevent us from being able to take that crazy-looking hat off, put the gun down, and make a bit of love as opposed to war? I think ultimately, if there's a final thought that I can leave you with, it's about this idea that we need to change the game, change it. We're in the business of change, transformative change. We want to change the way people buy, the way, we think about how our businesses have been revolutionized by digital. We want to change the game. We don't want incremental change. We crave exponential change. We need to change the game or go home. CNN is a company that is changing the game. You might not know how, but let me share with you just a few ways that they are. The CNN YouTube debates was a very interesting example where a snowman could actually ask a question of the Democratic candidates. And I love this example, and there's no time to show it to you today, but Dennis Kucinich answers the question with such a straight face, and I'm like, dude, it's a snowman. Surely we've got something there about a snowman. But this is the kind of interesting way of changing the way we do our business. So now, for the first time, real questions being asked by real people. But here's the interesting thing. There were over 3,500 submissions, but only 8 or 10 questions got asked. What a great opportunity for all the candidates to come to the table and say, I am going to do nothing more than answer as many of these questions as possible. Commitment, not campaigns. There's a guy by the name of Rick Sanchez building up an incredible community on CNN right now, engaging his community through Twitter and Facebook, asking the same questions of you or me that he's asking of his guests on the show. And I think probably the most interesting one is iReport. Now, iReport is so interesting because you might think of it as a nice gimmick. Hey, send in your video of anything that kind of, tickles your fancy. But here's what's so interesting about it. When the bridge collapses in Minneapolis, who's there to see it first? Do you think there's a CNN reporter on the scene? No way. We are there, and we have these little things called mobile phones, and those mobile phones have cameras, and pretty high-res cameras, and pretty impactful video capabilities, CNN has figured out very, very smartly and strategically that if they get the content before the competitors, they win, and the competitors don't. And it's changed the way they do business so much so that they're now starting to increase or allocate increasing amounts of real estate of their programming to iReports. So, transformative change. I guess the question I want to leave you with, and I'm certainly not trying to portray the direct marketing industry as a scene from the Matrix, but ultimately, I do it for a simple reason. How are we going to change our industry? How are you going to change your industry? What will your industry look like in 3 to 5 years' time, in 5 to 7 years' time, in 7 to 10 years' time? How will you test, learn, and evolve humanity? How will you create this and economy, this commitment-based, many-to-many methodology? How will you change the way fundamentally that you do business? And in so doing, this whole push to cause marketing and being greener, how will you make this world a better place? How will you fundamentally change your organization? And maybe, just maybe, the world. Dell figured it out, not by their own admission, but because they were forced to change their company. When Jeff Jarvis, and I write about it and join the conversation, how Jeff Jarvis took on Dell and created this term called Dell Hell. Dell changed. Not tactically, not even strategically, but in fact organizationally and culturally, to the point where they have efforts now and initiatives, I would never call this a campaign, like Idea Store, where they're partnering with their consumers to ultimately change the next generation of Dell computers. And here's how this particular story ends, which just shows you it's never too late to join in the conversation. Jeff Jarvis, their most outspoken detractor, writes an article in Business Week saying Dell learns to listen, and tweets, "I'm now friends with Michael Dell on Facebook." Who would have thought? I think that's cool. I think that's cool as well, and I hope you do as well. Thank you very much.